Hello, I am Sean, and today we're going to be looking at some of the best plays for Mirage and Caustic. Let's do it. Let's do it now. Go. Known as the holographic trickster, Mirage, aka Elliot Witt's playful and foolish nature came from being the youngest of 4 brothers, always mucking around to get attention. His interest in trickery and illusion led to his passion for creating holopilot tech alongside his mother. Despite working as a bartender to make ends meet, Mirage always had dreams of competing at the Apex Games, following incredible stories he had heard from his patrons. His mother found out and insisted he use his knowledge of holotech to become one of the game's most memorable contenders.
I gotta admit, I may have tricked you.
No one wants to die in Apex Legends, and Mirage's passive ability Encore is designed to make surviving a little more viable. Once downed by an opponent, Mirage automatically drops a decoy clone that performs a slightly theatrical death as a distraction. Whilst this is happening, your struggling body will be cloaked for 5 seconds. This gives you the opportunity to crawl to a safer space and desperately ping the enemy in the hope your team can come up clutch. At first glance, this ability seems lacking in value, but as players' game smarts increase, they will learn this trick that Mirage has and be wise to the escape attempt. But its true value comes from the time waste element. The longer you can stay downed rather than dead as an opponent desperately searches to finish you off can be vital. It gives you time to repeatedly highlight the enemy's location as we discussed, gives your team time to get to a vantage point, and gives you time to save your knockdown shield that little longer. All these small elements add up to create a tricky situation for your opponent. As far as escape attempts go, dropping down a steep hill or changing rooms are all viable options to completely baffle an opponent. You'd be surprised how far you can travel in 5 seconds when gravity is involved. As the old saying goes, if you see only with your eyes, then you'll be easy to fool. That proverb may be hundreds of years old, but I'm fairly certain it was based around Mirage's psych out ability. Hitting LB on Xbox, L1 on PlayStation, and Q on PC as Mirage will send out a decoy clone to bamboozle your foes. You can alter the distance that your decoy travels by aiming at a specific endpoint. If they bump into anything on their travels, then they will stop dead. Or if they come into contact too early, then they will disappear altogether. Sending a decoy whilst crouched will also make your decoy crouch walk to their intended target for that extra level of authenticity. Your decoy will disappear once shot by an enemy or after your cooldown of 14 seconds finishes, but you'll always need to plan when this will happen. Used aggressively, you'll find your opponent out in the open and send your decoy in a direction away from you that can be easily spotted. Whilst the enemy engages the fake you, get around to a blind spot or behind them and start firing. Add to this a position indicator of the last known position of the attacker who shot your decoy, and you have a huge advantage. Psych out is also a great tool for escaping. If you are low and being chased by an enemy, get around a corner and send your decoy in another direction. Once your enemy is distracted, hightail it the opposite way for some breathing space to heal and plan your next move. To be super cheeky, you can send 2 decoys whilst in flight from the dropship. Aim in the direction you want whilst dropping, and 2 fast decoys will descend on an area of your choice. Best use here is to send them to the same area you plan to land, making other squads think that the LZ is super busy with the hope that they'll change their course, leaving you all that sweet, sweet loot. Loot. Have you spotted the theme yet? Mirage is all about the art of surprise and trickery, and his ultimate is no exception. Vanishing Act is the ultimate get out of jail card, which deploys a team of decoys in the spot you activate it, whilst you cloak and your movement speed increases to make that sweet getaway. This ability is game changing in team fights. Stuck behind a rock under heavy gunfire? Simply deploy a squad of yourself and run behind the enemy to unleash hell. It's an easy to use ability with a devastating impact.
This was just a lovely time. Thank you for this.
Mirage is a great character to throw into teams with solid awareness and communication. Speedy characters like Wraith or Bangalore can pounce on an enemy that mistakenly attacks a decoy before they have a chance to react. The rough duration of Mirage's Psych Out decoy also aligns with the increased revive speed of Lifeline. If you lose a teammate, provide a distraction, and in those few seconds you can have your teammate back on their feet and back in the fight. Bloodhound is also a great partner for Mirage when trying to locate enemies. Throw your decoy out into an area, and if attacked, have your Bloodhound pop their Eye of the Allfather to pinpoint their position. Your opponent will be looking the wrong way, whilst your whole squad now has eyes on the same target. If subtlety isn't your thing, then maybe we could look at our second legend who's a right gas. It's Caustic. Dr Nox, better known as Caustic, is definitely not the kind of man you want to stand next to in an elevator. Originally one of the brightest scientists at Humbert Labs, good old Dr Nox decided he didn't fancy pursuing the noble art of crop pest control, and instead felt that his deadly gaseous creations were better suited to wiping out much larger pests, namely the opposing teams at the Apex Games. After his boss discovered his gruesome experiments, the resultant fallout left many dead and the lab in flames. Nox is presumed dead and may well be from a moral point of view, but Caustic very much lives on.
In the end, everything dies.
Beginning the slightly arrogant trend of naming all his abilities after himself, Nox Vision is an ability specific to Caustic's gassy arsenal. Enemies that unfortunately end up breathing in Caustic's deadly fumes will be visible to him. This makes for a deadly combo for confused enemies caught in the fog. Disorientated, taking AoE damage, and suddenly riddled with bullets, I know who I fancy in that fight. This caters heavily to Caustic's area control style, where enemies foolish enough to try and infiltrate an area he has locked down are deeply in trouble. Fighting in buildings often comes down to positional awareness, making this level of vision hugely valuable, especially as Caustic receives no damage from his own gas. Where oh where does this gas come from, I hear you ask? No, not from there, but from the multiple Nox gas traps that can be planted. The gas traps are black cylinders that release the deadly Nox gas once they are shot or proximity triggered by an enemy. These are great for locking down key areas of the map, most noticeably the watchtower at Cascades. This area has a huge line of sight across the middle of the map, making it a great point to hold, but also a target. With the gas traps, a few at the entrance and a couple by the zipline mean any trespassers will be in for a nasty shock. Traps also come in handy for protecting your back. If you are leaving an area you believe had enemies and are concerned about being followed, drop a gas trap on your travels for an early warning system if an enemy is approaching. Traps that aren't triggered won't restock your supply. You don't want to be left without any traps because you randomly spam them across the stretches of Kings Canyon all willy-nilly. What do you give the man who already has all the gas? More gas, apparently. Caustic's Gas Grenade Ultimate is a hugely effective AoE tool that, when used right, is more effective at clearing a room than your dog. Always blame the dog, they can't talk back. Thrown as a projectile, the radius can cover entire buildings, forcing other squads out into the open no matter how dug in they are. It has a long duration as well, preventing opponents from trying to out-heal its damage output. Combine this with the gas traps for added coverage and Nox Vision, and you can really reshape a battlefield into one completely controlled by Caustic. The gas grenade in particular marries up with a lot of other legend ultimates. Wraith and Pathfinder can both use their respective ultimates after you gas a building to get you in there quick to deal with the blinded enemy, while Gibraltar and Bangalore's airstrike capabilities are perfect for locking enemies in a building covered in that gassy goodness. So that's what Mirage and Caustic can bring to the table, all smoke and mirrors, or gas and mirages. Oh, we're funny, somewhat. And of course, subscribe and ding that bell as you will get notifications for our regular uploaded videos. Have a lovely, lovely day, and I'll see you soon.